What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is going to be a review for Pose Season 2, Season Finale, Episode 10. I hate to see the end of the season, but it was such a good season, and this was such a good finale. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. We start off, we see Blanca's at the apartment, and it looks like, well, not looks like, she's doing nails out of her apartment now. She got her station set up. She's got, nail selections on the wall and all this good stuff. But she's sick. She's coughing. Her face looks drawn. Like you could tell she's sick. And she's finishing up with a customer. The customer leaves, and then she looks up and she sees somebody, and it's Pray Tell in the doorway. And, she's kind of giving him the look like, I don't think I have an appointment for you. And he was like, well, I hear you take walk-ins. And you see her face, and then she just gets up and walks over to him, and they hug and they embrace, and they were like, I miss you too. And what we find out is this is 8 months later. So this is 8 months after the girls' trip and Pray Tell and Blanca have fallen out. I love this about Pose because they don't dwell on that day to day. You know what I'm saying? They allow things to progress. And so Pray Tell and Blanca have not spoken. And so we see them sort of catching up, and that is a result, they're catching us up. Damon is still out on tour, doing really well in Paris and all these different places. Angel and Papi are doing well. She said they like Lucy and Ricky. They are still in love. They are still doing it, doing their thing. We see that Blanca has now set up shop in her apartment. She said, look, it ain't a storefront, but I don't have to worry about no extra rent, and it is what it is. So she asked, how you doing, Pray Tell? Pray Tell and Ricky are still dating. They're taking things slow, but, Ricky got a key to the apartment, and they still having some good hot sex, And so he says to her, though, he says, just because you don't have any kids walking the balls doesn't mean you can't come. Like, when was the last time you've been to a ball? And she was like, look, I just got, I don't have time for all that. I got too much other stuff going on. I don't really have time. And the whole time she's coughing and stuff. And Pray Tell is looking at her, and he's like, look, and I know it's clear that she's sick, but the fear, obviously, they know what happens. They have had so many friends that once they go to the hospital, what happens? They don't come out. And so I'm sure he knew once he talked to her for a few minutes, he knew she was sick. But I'm sure he was afraid to just even broach it. But he finally does. And he was like, look, when the last time you been to the doctor? And she was like, look, I ain't got time for that. But then she got to having a coughing fit, and next thing you know, she's in bed. She's in the hospital. Pray Tell's there with her. And we find out that, she pretty much thinks this is it. And she's like, look, I'm finally at peace. And Pray Tell says, you shouldn't have to die to be at peace. And she actually has her will that she's written out. So she asked Pray Tell, she said, look, I need you to do me a favor. Like, can you pull that notebook out for me? And we find out that she's left certain things to people. And even in the midst of her and Pray Tell not speaking, she pretty much left the bulk of her estate to Pray Tell, even in the midst of them not talking. She ends up leaving, she had left something physical for everybody except for Papi. And then he was like, you gotta leave Papi something physical. So, because she left Damon her mom's cookbook, if y'all remember from last season, her mother's cookbook. She left all her nail stuff to Lulu. She left all of her clothes and makeup and jewelry to Angel. And Pray Tell, she left like I think it was her music collection and something else she left to Pray Tell. And then for Angel, she ended up leaving Angel. Oh, damn, I forgot just that quick. But anyway, Pray Tell convinces her, because I think at first she was like, well, I left my wisdom to Papi. And he was like, you got to give him something physical. And so she ends up leaving him. What was it? Oh, man. Oh, her journals. I'm sorry, her journals. Because she was like, Papi can write my life story. So, they have this moment. So then he pulls out her address book, and she's like, well, what are you doing? He was like, I'm about to call everybody in the family because I'm going to make sure that you have round the clock company, that you are not, you will not be alone. And this is what we're getting ready to do. So he calls in the troops. And here's the thing. I'm sure, we know she has HIV, so we know what that is. However, well, at this point, AIDS. But however, we also know that feeling good, being happy, having a positive attitude will also help with with being sick. And she just hasn't felt that. Like, she just ain't felt like that. What they didn't mention was the dude from the beach. So I'm assuming that that sort of just fizzled out, which, we kind of expected that to happen. But we're 8 months later. We don't know how it ended or whatever. And I'm wondering if, now that we know that there is a season 3, I'm wondering if that's something that'll come up next season that they'll discuss next season. But they didn't even broach it. At least if they did, let me know I missed it because I didn't hear it. When her and Praytel were catching up. Next thing you know, we're in the hospital, and Blanca, I mean, and everybody's there. Um, you know, Electra's there, Lulu's there, Angel's there, Papi's there, like everybody there. And they get to talking about the balls again. And Praytel is like, what is going on? Like, why are y'all not coming to the balls? Like, what's up? And Electra was like, look, I got better things to do than be worried about being judged by a bunch of men. And they start getting into how hard it is, as women, how hard it is to stand there and constantly be judged by men. And constantly, she said, look, the MCs are men, all the judges are men. And it's hard, a majority men. It's hard to always just be just be ostracized. You put yourself out there on the line and you're constantly getting shot down. And you know, he's listening. Praytel is listening and he's taking it in. And so, um, and everybody agrees. All the women in the room are like, yes, Praytel, this is how we feel. So he ends up taking it to the council. He ends up taking it to the MC council. And he says, we really have got, this. I'm talking to people, and this is what they're telling me how they feel. The women are saying, and of course, at first they were like, whatever, that's what they signed up for. That's what the balls are. Like, that's what we do. And he said, yeah, but you know what? Because it's the end of the season is coming up with the Mother's Day. Remember last year, that's where the season ended, was Mother of the Year award. So Mother's Day is coming up, and it's Mother of the Year award again. So they're having their big ball. And he says, you know what? Maybe we need to do something to show them that we do get it, that we understand. And so one of the MCs came up with an idea. He was like, look, we need to pull a stunt. Let's reverse it. Let's do a new category, basically men for the first time in drag, and let's walk it. And at first Praytel was a little reluctant because he was like, you know what? I don't want it to come off as a caricature. I don't want them to think that we just threw on a bunch of wigs and some lipstick and we're making fun of them. I want them to really understand that we're coming at them with empathy. And they're like, we're going to do it right. We're not going to mess it up. And they were like, pass the motion. And so reluctantly, he passes the motion. So we also found out that Angel hasn't been getting any work. It has dried up. Look, her and Miss Ford have a relationship that they have a great relationship. And you see it in this episode even more so. And she sort of rolls up on Miss Ford. She she rolls up in her office, pushes past the receptionist and everything, but Miss Ford talks to her. She don't put her out. She talks to her. And she basically told her, look, you got clocked. And Angel remembered actually running into somebody, and I know him. And I know y'all are going to tell me in the comments who he is, but I have seen him. I know him. And he basically clocked her at a photo shoot and was like, yeah, you're beautiful. And I've always been a fan. And she was like, well, thank you. He was like, yeah, when you were walking the balls. So she knew. And he ended up telling the client, and the client ended up coming back at Miss Ford and was like, look, don't be playing games with me. I told you I wanted a woman, not a man dressed as a woman. And from there, the word spread. And so at this point, all the people who wanted Angel are pulling their contracts. And Miss Ford was like, look, I was going to tell you, but that wasn't a phone call. I wanted to talk to you face to face. And I wanted to let you know. She was like, and I also needed to do my research first. What I love was she wasn't upset. She wasn't angry. She told Angel, the world's just not ready. They're not ready for you. She wasn't like, how dare you? But I think she knew. I honestly think that she had figured it out. But, and Angel, of course, had a moment, and she said, they think that you're a fraud. And she was like, but I'm not a fraud. Like, do you think I'm a fraud? And she said, no, but the world's just not ready for this. And so at this point, Angel has no work, and it doesn't look like, so it looks like her modeling career is over. And so that night she tells Papi, and she lets Papi know. She said, look, she said, at the end of the day, I did this for almost a year. I should have been clocked the first week, which the reality is she probably should have been. She's like, so it's over. I just got to figure out what my next chapter is going to be. And Papi like, no, it ain't. See, I love y'all. Love me some Papi. And that damn, post had me just they had me crying again this last night too. I wanted to do my review last night. I was so hyped after seeing it, but my head was looking crazy because I told you I was taking my braids out. So my head was looking crazy last night. Couldn't go on camera. But Papi decides that he said, you know what? I've been your manager and I can do this. And so he goes on and gets business cards, and he decides that he's going to create a talent agency for women like Angel. You know what I mean? He said, I'm going to get women from the balls. I'm going to get women from our community, and I'm going to find clients who will hire them. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And he tries to talk to the women, y'all, and they are paying him dust. They are like, child, whatever. He actually almost gets one client, but he couldn't tell her that y'all know the lady that the one that walks in House of Winter. I think her name is Ebony. I know y'all gonna get me together, so I got that wrong. But he couldn't tell her that she looks better than Angel. She was like, how you gonna be my manager and you can't tell me I look better than the next woman? And he was like, but that next woman is my woman. Like, I can't do that. And he tries to get a lecture to help him out. Lecture was like, look, you selling a dream. It ain't gonna work. I ain't gonna be no parts of it. Like, look at what happened to Angel. Like, this is what's gonna happen eventually, and I'm not gonna get anybody's hopes up for them to end up getting hurt. So he goes to Miss Ford. Him and Angel go to Miss Ford, and he breaks down for Miss Ford the name of his business, Fidelity, and he said, look, I want to create a platform for women from our community. I know that I can find work for them. I know that we can get them in the mainstream. He was like, I just need somebody with a name behind me. He was like, I'm not asking you to hire me. I'm just asking you to back me up. If I use your name in a meeting and they call you to verify, I just need you to say, yeah, he's working with me, not for me. He said, because then I'm no longer that punk off the street. Now I got some clout behind my name because I'm connected to you. He's like, that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to give me anything. I'm just asking you for you to have my back. She looked at him and she was like, I tell you what. She said, I'm going to give you a cubicle. I'm going to give you a phone line. And if you book, what she said, if you book a viable client in the next, I think she gave him a month or something like that. She said, I'll bring you under my wing. I'll make you part of the Ford agency. He said, and so that's why I said she has a relationship with them. And I think she really respects Papi's, chutzpah. And y'all know Papi got it. Papi got it. He 100% believes. He believes in Angel, but he also believes in bringing the community into this world. Like, he believes he can make it happen. I loved it. I loved how he took those lemons and he turned it into lemonade. And then at the end, he spiked it with a little bit of vodka and made it a little electric lemonade. Okay. So Blanca is not, she's getting better, but she's still feeling like, her and Nurse Jackie have a moment. And she's talking to Nurse Jackie. She's like, look, break it down for me. Am I dying or what? What's going on? And, how much time do I have? And, Nurse Jackie is like, look, like I know that it's unpredictable, but your lifestyle has a lot to do with it. And she said, well, do you think it's the chemicals from my salon? And she said, that can't help. She said, you might need to retire. You might need to go on disability. And of course, Blanca is like, look, I am 30 years old. What the hell am I doing on disability? And Nurse, did I call her Nurse Jackie? Y'all know who I'm talking about. She was like, well, what you gonna do? Like, your body is in control now. Your mind is saying one thing. Yes, you're 30 years old, but your body is in control at this point. So we also find out what happened to Miss I want to call her Henrietta, but that ain't her name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The damn landlord. Come to find out, she did get indicted for burning that building down. They did research the arson, and it came back to her, honey, and she is going to jail. And they even mentioned Blanca in the article, the newspaper article, about the fact that she lost her business in this fire, and how, of course, they didn't mention that part of the reason why the fire went down was because they wanted to get rid of Blanca. But they said, she's just trying to make money. And when they show her, they showed a lawyer talking to her, and she goes off on this whole big spiel about how it's because she's a woman and how men do it all the time and get away with it, but it's because she's a woman and she's not going to apologize for doing what the men do, and she's not going to apologize because she is a woman. And she said, the only thing I might feel sorry for is the fact that I destroyed one woman's dream for my own. And of course, she's talking about Blanca. And I said, oh, and that was big. Because I don't know whether she realized it or not, but she's acknowledging Blanca being a woman and acknowledging what she did to Blanca, which lets me know that at some point, on some level, Blanca got to her. I think if nothing else, she respected Blanca because she really didn't think Blanca would give her the fight that she gave her. But anyway, so we see that. But so that's what happened to her. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more to the story as we move into next season, only because I feel like something is blossoming there. The fact that they even gave us that part of it, I was surprised. I was surprised they gave us that to say, look, she did get arrested, because I was like, she just got away with it. I said, remember, I said that in my review last week. It ain't nothing that Blanca can do about it. It is what it is. So now, honey, Miss Electra, the men's council, I mean the MC's council, have gone to Electra to help them get ready for this ball, honey. And we have this whole scene with them trying to walk in these heels, looking a damn mess. Okay, it is hilarious because Electra is giving it to him. Electra is giving it to him because, of course, y'all know how much they give it to Electra. So there's when it's time for Praytel, of course, Praytel, we know Praytel can prance in some heels, honey. We know that Billy Porter can prance in some heels, but of course, when it came down to his turn to walk, he couldn't do it. And Electra was giving him the business, and him and Electra got into it. Electra said, look, take the critique and get back in line. It is what it is. He says, F you, and he rolls out. So Ricky goes after him because Ricky was there too. The House of Wintour, the men of the House of Wintour were there with the MCs. So Ricky goes out there and he tells Ricky, he said, look, if you out here for a pep talk, I'm not here for it. Like, that's not what I'm not here for. You can keep it moving. But Ricky says, look, then I'm not going to give you a pep talk. Then I'm going to tell you, get out your feelings, get back in there and get it, and let's do it again. And he was like, excuse me? And Ricky told him, he said, look, he said, it's something that you're holding back. There's a reason why you can't give into this. And you need to let it go. And so he opens up to Ricky and tells Ricky about how when, he was a kid, his father was like, I'm gonna beat the gay out of you. He said, and slaps turned into punches. And, I learned to try to hold in my feminine side. That was what that taught me. And so it's hard to let that go. And remember, that was sort of the conversation he had with Candy at Candy's funeral was, you are everything that I hate about myself. And you were so in your face about it that it was something that turned me off. And so Ricky said, look, the first time I walked in a femme category, it scared the hell out of me. But then I realized that I can be butch and I can also embrace my feminine side. And so they had a moment, and Praytel was like, the young one teaching the old one, and and it was a very intimate, sweet moment. It showed that yes, where their relationship has progressed, and yes, it's more than just a sex thing. So yeah, so that was good. So then we had sorry, y'all. I want to make sure I did it in the right order. And this was a longer episode because it was the finale. It was an hour and a half. So this review is going to be a little bit longer. So Blanca is getting so much better. She's walking around. She's still very weak. She can't walk far, but because the infection was in her lungs. But we see her getting ready to get out the hospital, and who shows up? Mr. Damon. He has flown back. And of course, he is loving on his mother. He said, I'm sorry it took me so long to get back. She said, well, I understand. And we find out that things are going really well for him, that he not only is the one finishing up the tour, but he's been asked to choreograph the next video, which Willie, y'all know who I'm talking about. And I know y'all gonna put the name in the comments. But he that somebody was saying that was his story, that he went on tour with this artist and ended up becoming his choreographer. And I know I'm gonna think of his name as soon as I get off of here. Anyway, and then he also lets Blanca know that he has extended the house of Evangelista, and he has started his own house, and he has his own children. And he was like, yes, those hard heads don't listen. And she was like, welcome to my world. And he says, look, I heard that you shut down the house. What's going on? And she said, look, I just can't. I just can't do it anymore. I'm just basically I'm just, nobody will replace you guys, and I can't do it. And he tells her, "You have something to give. Where would I be without you? Where would I be if you had not opened up your house?" You know, and we know where Damon would be. By this time, Damon ass would be dead. Let's be real, because he was not made for street life, and he'd have been chewed up and spit out. He was damn near halfway there when she found him. So, um, he convinces her to go to the ball because she wasn't going to go. I think um no, Pray Tell convinced her, because Pray Tell said, "I got something up my sleeve for you," and she was like, "What you got cooking up?" And he wouldn't tell her, but everybody encourages her to go to the ball. So we see her going to the ball. She's still in her wheelchair, and she, can't do a lot, but she's gonna go to the ball. And y'all, this ball scene was everything. This ball scene was everything. Do you hear me? We started off with house versus house versus house. We had the house of Ventura versus the house of Velocity versus the house of Pendavis, right? And they had the three categories, and of course, all of our favorites plus our favorites from the actual ballroom scene were all there, and they were all walking. And when it was all over said and done, I think the House of Wintour won two of the trophies. I think the House of Velocity won one, and the House of Pendaris won one. I believe is how it went down. And then they announced Mother of the Year, and Electra won. And when they broke it down, they said it was unanimous. They said, "Look, I don't want no arguments this year. I don't want nobody talking no shit." It was unanimous who won Mother of the Year, because they were talking about basically how she stormed the scene, and how her children have been winning all these trophies, and how they are always giving you they're always giving you couture when they come to the runway. I mean, it was so you were like, I mean, when he was talking, when Praytell was talking, I was like, okay, that's Electra. Because I mean, the minute he said always bringing you couture, you knew who they were talking about. So Electra wins Mother of the Year, honey. So then they move into their next category, which is I want to say is it candy? Yes, Candy Sweet Refrain. Remember, they said they were going to add this category, a lip syncing category for Candy, and they were going to call it Candy Sweet Refrain. So this is the inaugural time that they're going to have this category, and the first contestant, and it's for a cash prize too, which is also something that's new. Um, well, before we get to that, hold on. Before we get to that, we got some news. I'm sorry, because that moment is so epic. I gotta wait. So Papi rolls up on Angel, and he's got these beautiful roses, and he's telling the bartender, "Let me get a glass of your best champagne." She was like, "What? Who you think you are?" He said, "All right, give me some of that bubbles." And so he tells Angel how he's booked his first client, and she was like, "Who?" He was like, "You." He said it's a company, it's I think some sort of a startup soda company in Germany, and how they got to get on a flight the next day. They flying them first class to Germany to do this photo shoot, and Angel starts. She hesitates, and she said, "But what happens if we get all the way to Germany and they don't want me? They figure it out." He said, "Baby, they already know." He said, "I told you, with my company, I'm upfront with everybody. They know exactly what they're getting, and they love it. They think it's exotic. They ain't got no problems with it." She was like, "Are you serious?" He said, "I told you." And then he starts talking about how much he loves her and how what he sees in her. And y'all, oh God, he's all choked up, and he's all, oh. So then Angel starts talking about how much he means to her, and she gets to getting emotional, and then she gets down on her knee, baby. And he's like, "No, wait a minute. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I want to ask you first. I want to ask you first." So then he gets down on his knees, and they ask each other at the same time, "Will you marry me?" And they both accept, obviously. And so, of course, the whole ballroom erupts, because Angel and Papi are engaged now. They're going to be getting married. And I think it is absolutely wonderful. Although in the back of my mind, I was thinking, was that legal at that time? But I'm sure that they're going to do it their way. So, and I'm like, hopefully next season they're gonna bring this into it, that we're gonna see their wedding next season. I'm sure that's gonna be everything. So anyway, so that was that. Then we get to Candy Sweet Refrain. And the first contestant, Pray Tell, introduces and says, "Hey, the first contestant has been dealing with some health issues. So we're gonna let her go first, because see, y'all gotta wait one more time. Y'all gotta wait one more time. I forgot about this too. Damon and Ricky have their moment, and they make peace. We find out. Oh, that's the other thing we found out. Damon got tested in Paris. He's negative. He lets Ricky know. Ricky's thankful. Ricky's like, I just never meant to hurt you, and I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for exposing you and all that good stuff. But they have their moment, and they're in a good place, and he still ain't ready to hear about Pray Tell, I don't think. Because when Ricky brings up Pray Tell, Damon's kind of like, okay. But he wasn't nasty about it. He just didn't seem like he was all like, like, yay. And then we find out that Ricky about to go back out on tour. He's going on tour with Paula Abdul. Here they go. I don't know what the music sound like yet, but I'm excited about the tour. I was like, see, y'all got jokes. Now let's get to Candy Sweet Refrain. See, I had to make y'all wait. So the first contestant is Blanca. She's in her wheelchair, and she's got the flags in front of her. And one is the house flag for Evangelista. The other one is the gay pride flag, the rainbow gay pride flag. And they open the flag up, and it's Angel pushing Blanca to center stage, and she is lip syncing the Star Spangled Banner, the Whitney Houston version from the was it the Super Bowl? It was the Super Bowl. Yes, the Super Bowl. Baby, baby, baby. Blanca did that. She first had on the sweatsuit, like sort of mimicking what, Miss Whitney Houston wore. And then she rips at halfway through the song, she rips the sweatsuit off, rips off the bottoms, and she's got this bad bodysuit. And she finishes singing from her wheelchair. And then towards the end, she gets up and she finishes up standing in a standing position. Baby. Pray Tell said, I'm calling it. That's it. She wins. The rest of y'all just had to meet me here next week. But she wins. That's it. That's it. We closing it. I mean, it was that epic of a moment. I done rewound that thing 3 times. It was that epic of a moment. Do you hear me? If you don't look at nothing else, you look at that. If you don't look at nothing else, it was so good. It was so good. So then after that, and this reminded me of a friend of mine who, because I still have never been to a ball, and a friend of mine wanted to take me to a ball, and she was telling me about, I'm warning you, these things last all night. Now I see, because I'm looking at this scene, and I'm like, this ball had to have lasted till about 4 a.m, because now we have the final category, which is the first time in a drag category, and who is the MC? Miss Electra, and y'all know Electra was reading down. She was giving it to him. She was reading down. Do you hear me? She was giving it to them. And she said, I want to call my judges up. And she called up Lulu and Angel, and she was like, come judge for me. Come judge for me. It was beautiful. And then she called up the mother of House of Pendarvis, who's the real mother of the House of Pendarvis. And then she got to Blanca, and she said, to the woman who should have won Mother of the Year. And then she went on to talk about all the things that Blanca's children are doing, and all the, their the great accomplishments that they have gotten this year. And, of course, the whole ballroom erupts, and she comes up in her wheelchair, and so she's judging. And the men come out and they do their thing. And it was cute. It was really cute. When it was all over said and done, of course, Pray Tell was last to come down. And he was a little wobbly in the beginning, but then you he caught his strut, and he had the whole Donna Ross thing going with the big wig and all of that, his little fur honey, and he did his little twirl, and he almost got 10s across the board until they got to that last judge, the House of Pendarvis judge. And she gave him a 9, and she said, payback's a bitch, Pray Tell. I said, you know what? But that's what I expected. I expected the men to be rough. I mean, those women to be rough on those men. I expected that. Because, I mean, of course, why wouldn't you take advantage of a time when you can give it back as good as you get? And so finally the ball is over, right? It was a good moment. It was a good time. We have our Mother of the Year. We have all of that going down, right? Then, so we see the end of the ball. Papi and Angel are on their way. And you know what? Something reminded me last week. James Caldwell, shout out to Spiller Boy TV. He was saying how sometimes with polls you find it hard to allow yourself to think good thoughts. Like you always waiting for the second shoe to drop sometime, like a Good Times episode. And I felt this way in this moment when Papi and Angel was standing there with Blanca and they were saying goodbye and they asked her if she wanted to go to breakfast with them. And she was like, "Nah, me and Pray Tell about to head home." And they were talking about going to Germany the next day and how they got to get home and pack. Like that whole moment. And then as they were walking off, I got scared. I said, in that moment, I was like, is somebody about to get shot? Is somebody about to get mugged? Like the way they walked off, it just scared me. I was like, something's about to happen. Something's getting ready to happen. I felt that in that moment. But what happens is Blanca spots two kids. And she's like, what are y'all doing? Come here. And they came over to her, which I was like, okay, this moment seemed a little too easy, but y'all let me know if y'all think it was or not. So they walk over to her and she gets to talking to them and she asks them, what are y'all names? And one little boy said, my name is Quincy. I think the other girl's name was, I don't remember. And she's talking to them and she's being, mother, being big mama to them and asked them their ages and come to find out both of them, I think they're 14 and 15. They just got there from Denver and they've been hanging out at the piers. Blanca said, you've been at the piers? She said, have y'all been eating? But they say, well, we've been, dumpster diving and so forth. She said, are y'all stealing? And they kind of look at each other like, sometimes. She said, and then the girl tells Blanca, you did so good with Whitney Houston. She was like, I know you weren't really Whitney Houston. She said, you want one of these? Because she's holding her trophy. She said, you want one of these? The little girl said, yeah. She said, you know what? I got some tricks I can teach you to help you get one of these. You want me to teach you? And of course, both of them were like, yeah. And so she said, I tell y'all what, you want to go to dinner with me and my friend? And at that moment, Pray Tell comes out. And Pray Tell, and he didn't even miss a beat. He was like, well, hey, y'all going to dinner with us? Like, he didn't even miss a beat. And so that's where the episode ends. So we see the second generation of the House of Evangelista, because I'm sure that's what we're going to pick up next season, or at least I'm hoping that that's what we're going to pick up next season with Mr. Quincy and that young lady whose name I don't remember right now. And this next generation. And I can't help but think if Pose had not been picked up for a season 3, if this final episode would have been Blanca's going away. Y'all understand what I'm saying? I feel like, because remember, they had already started, even though the season had been renewed like by the second episode, they were already filming. And I'm sure that the season had been written. And I'm just wondering if that's what would have been. But anyway, I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad that, Blanca had a health scare, but I'm glad we're in a good place. And I am going to miss this show for the next 8 or 9 months till it comes back. But it was great. It was a great finale. And y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments, please.